Alright, listen. I'm one of those people who say that I'll listen to just about any music genre, but I promise it's not because I'm basic or incapable of having taste in music. My channel is still brand new, but if you've been around it the last couple of weeks of its existence, then you have probably figured out that writing is something I'm genuinely passionate about. As such, when I say I'll listen to just about any genre of music, it's because I love to listen to songs that really explore a narrative or a character, and if the song can use the emotions and expectations built into whatever genre it happens to follow, I'll probably like it. Now, love songs on their own are harder to pull off than you might think. Sure, love is an emotion deep enough to explore, but it's also the easiest to accidentally just be a cliche. If you've heard one country song about a one-night stand that the persona wishes became something deeper, you've probably heard them all. Breakup songs are in a similar boat. But that's fine, it's just what some people resonate with. But I personally find the subject of losing your significant other more interesting. I hadn't really thought too hard about songs about that subject until I recently noticed that one of my playlists features both Paint It Black by the Rolling Stones and Ghosts by Muse. They are starkly different songs written in two very different time periods and from two very different bands. Yet, as I listened to them, I realized that not only do the songs narrate the same subject material, but they can even connect with each other if you take a moment to think about them. As a quick disclaimer, I've never lost a significant other, nor have I had a significant other, so in no way do I intend to say that I'm knowledgeable on this matter. I'm simply looking at the subject from the perspective of writing a character going through the tragedy. Additionally, while I love music, I am not a musician. I'm a writer. If I get terminology mixed up, I'm sorry. While song lyrics and poetry naturally walk hand in hand, lyrics are often written with at least a strong idea of what the rest of the song is going to sound like. While I'm discussing how these two songs portray the internal struggles of their respective personas in a writing perspective, I do have to talk about the rest of the music as well, because they form the complete narrative together.
Now and then, my mind drifts to a place where
I like this song. I know Muse has fallen off a bit, but at least this song really feels like this was something Matt Bellamy actually wanted to do rather than something the band felt obliged to do. Matt had stated before that he likes to write music around the piano, even when the intention of a song is to hand the job off to a guitar. People have said that this song feels like it belongs in Cryosleep more than Will of the People, but I think that might have been kind of the point. Even if it wasn't, I'd take it as a compliment. Matt started doing solo work by singing at his piano during the pandemic, thus spawning Cryosleep in the first place, but I think Ghost is proof that he's still interested in it. However, it is also worth mentioning that Ghost was written at around the same time as Cryosleep, and that the persona is someone who lost their partner from the virus, which is why the original title was The Great Reset. The song itself takes a very straightforward approach to the idea of losing a partner. The piano has emotional swells to it with the volume increasing and decreasing alongside the vocals, but is nonetheless organized. The impression is that the persona is still clearly devastated, but enough time has passed that he's at least on the path to acceptance. The lyrics themselves establish it as well. Now and then, my mind drifts to a place where I find you. Lost in my head, there are unsolved feelings that haunt me. It's too late to heal, I'll lay them to rest. The persona is someone who knows that they can't turn back the clock. Sure, the wounds are still there, but now there's an awareness that the dwelling on them and letting the sorrow drag him into a spiral does more harm than good. The chorus says, "How can I move on when everyone I see still talks about you? How can I move on when all the best things I have we made together? Here's to letting go, but I'm lost in a void with your ghost in our memories, lest we forget the Great Reset." I mean, the text speaks for itself. There's not a lot of commentary I can put into the writing style, other than the last line being distinctly a Matt Bellamy line. Take that as you will. Instead, I'd like to point out that the vocal performance of these lines do a really solid job of portraying the lump in your throat feeling of being on the verge of tears. Funnily enough, that's kind of what he sounds like when he sings anyway, it's just that it takes on a new experience in the context of these particular lyrics. Overall, I would say Ghost is an example of handling the subject material well, albeit by the books. The song isn't reinventing the wheel, but it doesn't necessarily have to. It's a lonely, melancholic drama that isn't as hopeless as it may seem at first glance. He finds the need to look forwards painful, but at least he is looking forwards. Time won't heal the wounds fully, but they're scabbing over enough that he knows he does have to keep walking. The Rolling Stones' Paint It Black seems to have wandered away from its original connotations. When the song is brought up, people think about Hueys, M16s, and jungles alongside Fortunate Son. And apparently more recently, Jenna Ortega. So let's take a step back from all of that. It's not a war song, and it's not a young adult breakup song. The sheer energy of the song is what likely throws first-time listeners off the scent of the subject material. At least with the stereo master I have, the guitar opens the song on the right ear moments before the drums start pounding in the left. Once they're both going, they keep a quick tempo they hold for the rest of the song. The immediate sense of the song conveys is panic. It makes you want to run, the drums taking the audio appearance of a ticking clock, and the guitar giving you a melancholic hopelessness. The lyrics are what draw the panic and hopelessness together. At first, it's reasonable to expect that the song will be a breakup narrative. I see a red door, and I want it painted black. No colors anymore, I want them to turn black. I see the girls walk by dressed in their summer clothes. Now, this is the part where a breakup song might try and connect the persona seeing other women experiencing jealousy or reminiscence. Instead, it continues, I have to turn my head until my darkness goes. The line doesn't necessarily exclude a breakup yet, but its ominous tone should perk your ears. It's the next stanza that finally confirms what this song is really about. I see a line of cars, and they're all painted black, with flowers and my love never to come back. When combined with another line from later in the song, I could not foresee this thing happening to you, the grimness of the narrative exposes itself on the stage. We aren't with a persona who's licking a wounded ego, we are walking with him at the funeral of his beloved, and then continuing to walk with him as he struggles to keep living. Something that seems to be universally accepted is that someone in grief tends to want to isolate themselves, but it's not healthy. And yet, I've seen people turn their heads and quickly look away. The people around him are too anxious to offer any support. Without anyone to stand with him, he's free to let his emotions spiral his mind towards thoughts of self-destruction. If I look hard enough into the setting sun, my love will laugh with me before the morning comes. Panic and hopelessness. The panic has fired him up to act, and the hopelessness tempts him to act as if there's no tomorrow worth living for. I can't say for certain if the tempo of the song increases throughout its runtime or not, but at the very least it definitely feels like it does. The drum kit definitely drives the manic feeling that the persona is spiraling completely out of control into despair, and you're strapped next to him for the whole ride down. The song never resolves the tension of the spiral either. The song doesn't necessarily have a bridge, but the ending is a lot like one. Once it's done, the song continues with unsettling humming as the volume sinks until you can't hear it anymore. The listener has been freed from being tied to the persona, but the persona himself is still nosediving to the bottom. While the two songs in no way sound like each other, and in fact they don't even share the same theme, they do have a common subject and echo off each other in some of their details. For example, they both mention how other people are reacting to the persona's struggles. Painted Black shows people in avoidance, and Ghost shows people reminiscing about the deceased. But even that example is evidence of my broader point. With the two very different moods the songs portray, it can be easy to conclude that they represent two different ways people might handle grief. I don't think that's the case though. I think we're looking at grief as it appears in two different distances in time since the death itself. While I don't believe Ghost is intended to be a sequel to Paint It Black in any way, I think it can be helpful to think of it in a similar manner as a sequel. Paint It Black takes place in the aftermath very soon after the death. After all, the second stanza of the entire song is a funeral procession to a cemetery. The shock and confusion of the unexpected loss has the persona stumbling through each day in solitude, as the people around him are also unsure what to do, so they just hope he can get better on his own. The sense of panic likely comes from the endless desire to try and do something to bring her back, but with nothing to do, the energy just leads to spirals and destructive thoughts. The song ends while the persona free falls emotionally to the bottom where even the listener can't follow, so you only hear his humming fade away into the distance. Ghost takes place later. While the anger and energy still flare up as seen in the chorus, persona never loses control or composure. Destructive thoughts aren't leading the persona anywhere. Other people are over their own anxieties about being awkward on the subject and have started talking about the deceased. It's even implied that the persona interacts with them too, even if he finds the memories of his partner they bring up painful. He hasn't really reached acceptance of the death, but honestly, I'm not sure there is a kind of acceptance that is completely without moments of thinking about the deceased. The persona still has some distance to go, sure, but they are definitely moving in the right direction. While I said before that I don't really believe Ghost was supposed to be a sequel to Paint It Black, I do like to think of it as the good ending. I find comfort in listening to Ghost and thinking of the persona as the same as the one in Paint It Black, but after he has stood back up from the gutter and began his walk back towards living. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I just moved back into my dorm, so I'll be resuming making content again after the few days of packing, driving, unpacking, and all the other logistics of moving. More content is to come, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it.